gonna make a little video today about what I've been doing. Hopefully it goes well, otherwise I'll look like an ass, but since you're all my friends, it won't be a big deal. So I'm in the advanced lab right now, see, dark room. But I'm actually doing something that's kind of simple for photography. It has a fancy name. It's Van Dyke Blue, I think they call it sometimes. It's a mixture of Van Dyke Brown and Cyanotype, which is actually, people say you can't do it, but you can. I figured out the way. So I'm going to show you. So first, you need watercolor paper. I have aquarelle. It's a cold press, so it has some texture to it. You can get a hot press if you really want things to be flat or like smooth. Since these look antique-y, I don't mind doing it with some small bit of texture. If you put too much texture, though, it gets hard to see the actual picture because of like light reflections. So I have that, and then I have set it up here to coat. And the first thing you want to use when you coat, the first thing is to do the cyanotype, which you can order online from B&H really easily, and it's pretty cheap to get. And you have to be careful that you don't mix these things up and contaminate things. So what I do is mark my droppers. You can barely see it now, so I have to remark them, but that one says cyano A, and this one is B. And I'm very careful to not let them touch each other and to clean them in between. And then you need a little mixie cup. And then for a paper this size, you need quite a bit of stuff. But you're also going to need a coating sponge, which you can buy at a craft store, and some distilled water, which I'll put in here because it actually is easier to coat if your sponge is slightly damp, but you want to use distilled water. So I'm just gonna pour some in here. This will be interesting doing one-handed. Good thing there's not a lot of water out. You don't drop my phone. Well, actually, there's a ton of water right here. I should be careful not to drop my phone. Okay, oh, and a paper towel, because you don't want the sponge to be like completely saturated with water, otherwise that'll screw up the mix. I want to mix the cyanotype, and there's A and B, or well, A and B, yeah. So first you start with A, and you get your dropper marked A, and you need a lot for the size paper. For an 8x10, I use 10 drops of each, and this is like 17 by 22, so that's like 4 8x10s. So I'm going to use 40 drops of each. So that's 10. 20. 30. 40. And I've had like coating issues in the past, so just to be safe, I'm gonna like use 50 or 60 because I don't really want it's 50. I have plenty of this stuff and it's cheap, and I don't really want to have coating issues. So that's 60. Okay. So now your dropper is kind of dirty. Okay, you can see. So make sure to put that somewhere where the other dropper isn't going to touch it. Now I've got my B solution, and I'm dropping this into this little cup here. And the same thing. Okay, so I have my little mixie cup here with my stuff. And this paper, you don't have to coat with like any gesso or anything. For Cyanotype and Van Dyke Brown, you don't have to size the paper. You could pre-shrink it. I should have, because I'm doing several washes between exposures. But I'm just starting to learn this process and trying to get, you know, the exposures and stuff down. And also, I'm kind of into the fact that it's kind of less precise sometimes, and I don't mind that so much. Especially the Cyanotype and Van Dyke Brown, they kind of bleach each other out, so you're not going to get precise, exact details anyway in a lot of the parts. So, okay, so I have my mixie cup. And this part, what you want to do is start from one side of your paper and sort of start pouring it and dragging it as you pour, so you'll get a line. Like this, kind of. And then you can kind of even it out a little bit. Grab your little spongy guy, get him in the distilled water, dry him off a little bit, and then just start sweeping, trying to get like really even and up and down and side to side, and as quickly as possible, because the paper will start sucking in the stuff. And ooh, and I got a lot on here, which is really, really good, because I'm gonna get a good even coat. Last time I didn't have enough, and it sort of started drying out as I got to the edges, which is a cool effect too, but you kind of want to make sure that you have control over that. And then also it wasn't enough, so it was sort of my negative wasn't, well, it wasn't covering the whole negative, so the edges got knocked off. So if you want to make like painterly edges, which you can do once you have a full coat, is sort of take the sponge and like go like this along the edge when it's like more dry, and you'll start getting these painterly edges. And then what's really cool is when you get the second coat on there, you'll do it again, and then they'll really become the first coat won't expose the same as the second, so you'll get like all these cool effects, and you'll see when I finish what you get. Okay, so now I've got my first coat of cyanotype. You need to do 2 coats. You get deeper blues, and for this process, because they bleach each other out, you really need 2 coats. So it's going to take a little while to dry, and I'll come back. It's me again. Okay, so we're back. So I made more of this cyanotype stuff. I was happy with the coating amount, so I did 60 and 60 again. I have to do a little disclaimer. Yes, I'm not wearing gloves or eye protection or a mask, which is really stupid, and you should. This stuff is poisonous. I'm not sure if it's cumulative or not, but, you know, I'm a suicidal photographer, as we all are, so it's okay with me. No, usually I do wear gloves and a mask and all that. Okay, so the paper, I have this awesome negative dryer, which I turn off the heat completely, because heat is bad, and I just turn on the fan. And that's awesome, because inside I hang my paper and it dries a little faster, which means I can done the coating faster. So taking my paper out and let it dry. I think it was about 15 minutes. Laying it back down, and I still have my little spongy here, which still has the other coating stuff on it, so I don't need to put it back in the distilled water because it's already a little damp from the first coat. And so I'm going to do the same exact thing I did in the first place. Take the cup, pour it across, try to get a nice even line, and then just quickly start coating and try to get it all across evenly. Start from the middle, so that if you get edges, you only get edges, so you don't get blotchy stuff. And always go fully, completely across, back and forth and up and down. And make sure you get it nice and evenly. You don't have to push hard on the foam brush. You just are swiping back and forth to really make sure that you get it at least throughout the central part of the image as even as possible. Then you can go through and do what I was doing before and make these little brush stroke things, and that gives you a really cool looking edge. You can also tape off the edge if you want an exact edge, and then you'll get that nice exact line if you're a real pedantic, picky person and you like that sharp line, like I said, I'm going for the messy right now. I'll do a couple at some other point with a nice sharp line. Also, sometimes your second coat won't go over the first, like on the edges, and that's okay. It'll make like a cool effect as well. But like I said, if you tape it off, or if you're really, well, you have to tape it off if you want to get it really perfectly done and coated on the edge. Okay, so that's it. I did the second coat, and I'm going to do the same thing. I'm going to hang it up and let it dry. Okay, so my cyanotype dried, and okay, I think you can hear me better now. So my cyanotype dried, and now I've put it in this plate burner. You can also use UV boxes, but you need contact frames for that. So I have this, and it has a vacuum control, which I already did. And it's already gone. The whole thing flips, lock. My exposures are 2 of 650. And that's it, you just wait. Okay, so afterwards, peel the negative up a little bit. It probably gets contaminated, so I have a special place I put the negatives. And you'll be able to see a little bit of the image inside. So then just put it in the water, not a wash, just still water to start. And I'm going to soak it for 5 minutes and just gently agitate. And you'll start seeing the blue come out. It's going to get a lot lighter. Unfortunately, I don't think this negative is dense enough. Let's see. So this is too light already, and it's going to fade as it rinses. I turn the rinse on to like the lowest setting possible because I noticed that if you wash it really hard, it fades faster. I also wash it face down, and you only need to wash it for about 15 minutes after the initial soak. So you put it face down and just set this as low as possible and kind of get it away from the paper so it's not going over the print, and just